At this time is back. DeSobe is here along with Yasi Agah. We're talking today not so much about the recruitment side from the talent professional, but from the candidate side, which is something we cover from time to time. Yasi, I know you're in the job hunt right now. Actually, do I have this right? I was looking at LinkedIn yesterday. You kind of took a day to yourself yesterday to kind of wander around. Give me the scoop on what was behind that and what's your kind of latest pursuits job wise.
Yeah, definitely. I have been working very hard to apply to a lot of jobs, and I think I reached my breaking point where I was just exhausted and just truly needed a day to myself. And I'm based here in New York City. I thought going on a ferry ride sounded fun, so I literally just hopped on the ferry. There was no one else because it was the middle of the day, and I got some ice cream and walked around. And it's very important to take those moments when you're job hunting because it can just get all consuming.
Yeah, because it really is like a full-time job. How have you approached the job hunting? Do you try to do a little bit each day or try to save certain days to spend the whole day doing it? What's been your plan of attack?
Yeah, good question. I have very much framed it like a full-time job. So I'm really lucky because I have a co-working space in my building. So I try to go downstairs into my co-working space, set up my computer as if I'm working for a full-time day, and I'll try to apply to at least 5 or 6 jobs a day.
Hmm.
Try to go for more. Sometimes it'll be less depending on the market. And then at least try to get a few introductions out in the world, get some networking calls scheduled because I think that warm introductions have been absolutely crucial in this market. So trying to stay on top of it. And I'm also studying for my project management professional certifications. Also takes up a lot of my time. So I'm a lot busier than I thought I'd be.
What would you say the percentages of jobs that you are applying to, I guess we'll call it cold, maybe you didn't have an intro versus, yeah, you've talked to somebody or two or three people are trying to give you a little bit of an in or connect you to somebody inside. What's the
Yeah.
percentage breakdown of that, you think?
Yeah. Great question. I'm thinking through the jobs where I have interviews right now. I'm interviewing at 6 different companies and three. So solid 50%. Three were from either referrals or some type of warm introduction. And then three were just cold applications. And I've gotten my last 2 jobs from cold applications. So I'm always a fan of you got to just do it all and
Put it
see
out
what
there.
sticks. But yeah, I found a solid 50-50 split, which you wouldn't expect.
Yeah. A lot of our listeners might not have applied for a job recently. What is happening from an interview standpoint? Are you talking to somebody early in the process? Is there a lot of things before you see a human being face to face or on the phone? What's been your experience so far?
Yeah, so far it's been all human experiences so far. I've definitely heard of some candidates going through an AI interview, which I think is really interesting. I have not experienced that yet, where it's all these pre-recorded questions and you have someone who seems like they're talking to you, but
Wow. Okay.
yeah, which is quite interesting. Yeah, I haven't experienced that. Mine has been mostly a recruiter call at the beginning just to make sure your experience aligns with the role. And then, of course, from there, they'll usually go from like a hiring manager for the roles I'm applying for, some type of case study. So that's been the typical path.
Yeah. Yeah. On that case study, or, sometimes in my world, we call them performance tasks or thought exercises. What kind of things have you seen? What's the amount of labor or hours they're asking for you? What kind of boundaries are there?
Yeah, it depends on the job in terms of boundaries. I've had some companies say, don't spend more than X hours on this task. One company even compensated me for the case study, which I very much appreciated because I know that's not quite best practice yet, but I think it should be. But they've been a range. A lot of here's a hypothetical scenario. How would you approach it? Or we have this very specific problem. Can you come up with a project plan for it? And for the ones that I think are more specific to the actual job, that's where they compensated because it was very directly tied into like what they're looking for. Like they could very much just use my ideas if
Use
they
your
want,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
they've paid me, so that's fine. But yeah, it very much differs company to company.
Yeah. Thinking back when you started your job hunt, what was your approach to putting your resources, your materials about you together? How did you kind of put the portfolio or the package about you out into the world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have job hunted a couple times recently due to various factors. One time I quit my job because I'd moved, another time was another layoff. So I've been ready for this, thankfully. But I would say what really got me, I think, to a good place was getting organized. I have a job hunting tracker where I keep track of every job that I've applied to, as well as, what is the low pay, the high pay band, when did I last talk to the recruiter, who is the recruiter, and also keeping track of feedback. I think that has been crucial, whether it's a rejection from an interview or even just the auto, like the no reply emails with rejections. Keeping track has been really great because if all the jobs you're getting rejected from are saying, hey, we don't, the role that we're looking for, you don't have the right experience, then maybe it's time to pivot versus if you're seeing a lot of, oh, this role closed or we filled this with an internal candidate. So yeah, that has definitely been, I would say, helpful is to keep track of everything. And I also approached my job hunt with, I made a personal website a couple of years ago, which has also been really helpful just to show my personality, when all you can see is a resume.
Interesting. And then once you get into the interviews themselves, how do you prep? What's the way that you feel most comfortable being ready to then answer any questions that someone may ask you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, of course, always research. I think that is key. I think the worst thing someone can do in an interview is show up and ask, like, what do you all do? Like, what is this company's, what do they do? What is the product? Of course, there's some companies where the product might not be as visible on their website, so you might have to ask some probing questions, but you got to do your research beforehand. Try to research who the interviewer is, understand their background. Have they been at the company a long time? Did they just join? Learn about their experience. And then I always like to have specific questions to the role I'm applying for. So checking out the job description, seeing what makes sense. And something I learned recently, which I think has been really helpful, is making it a two-way conversation versus okay, I'm here and I'm in an interview.
Firing
Like
off answers, yeah.
exactly. It's like you're allowed to ask them questions, and those I've found to be the most successful interviews is where me and the recruiter are almost just like talking on the phone. Like they'll say, "Oh, I'm based in San Francisco," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no way! I used to live out in the city. Like, where are you based in the city?" So it just opens it up and it shows a little bit more of like your personality.
Yeah. And you mentioned AI earlier in terms of sometimes you're seeing AI generated questions or video interview. How are you using AI at all to your advantage? It is kind of an arms race between the recruiters and the candidates, but yeah, how's it working in your favor?
Yes, ChatGPT has been the best. I am sure I am not optimizing AI as well as I could, but I essentially made a prompt where every time I type in a job description, it'll spit out like a tailored resume and cover letter draft. And I've put in all my information so that it knows my resume background, it knows my template that I have for my cover letter. And I never submit just the AI copy. I always go in and I make my edits. I make it sound like me, but it saved so much time versus, manually typing up a cover letter draft every time or manually typing in all the keywords you want. So ChatGPT has been a game
Yeah.
changer for sure.
Last thing, how do you leverage or approach LinkedIn during this time when you're trying to find a job?
Yes, LinkedIn has also been really key. What I've found has been really useful is a lot of the times job descriptions will say who the actual role would be reporting to. So it'll say, this person is reporting to the head of project management, let's just say for my case. So I go on LinkedIn, I try to find that person or at least someone on their team and see if I have any mutual connections. And if I do, that's actually how I got my foot in the door with an interview. I actually found someone who was on the team of the role that the job that the role would be sitting in. And one of my previous coworkers was connected to someone on the team. And I asked her, I was like, hey, would you be able to introduce me? She said, absolutely. And that 100% got my foot in the door. So it's a lot of just seeing who's out there, who can you potentially connect with, and leveraging your network as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay, so the millions of listeners, hopefully some of them are hiring. What should they
Yeah.
hire you for? What kind of roles are you looking for?
Yes, I'm looking for project and program manager roles. I'm pretty open in industry, but I've really found a lot of joy in like the HR space, healthcare, health tech, as well as financial services and fintech.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll put your LinkedIn stuff in the info to this episode. People get on it before she gets snapped up somewhere. Hey, thanks for coming on. It's great talking to you and hearing about your experience. Thanks everyone for listening. All the episodes, we're up to 12, which is great. You can find them all the places you listen to your podcast. And of course, on YouTube, catch us in Stunning K and follow us on Instagram. And until next time, we'll catch you soon.